Top of the afternoon to all of our fellow music enjoyers in the world. How are you doing today, good sir?
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I'm dead.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Uh, we got music
We
that's
do.
been coming out. Um, yeah, I don't know what I was going to say about it, but there's music to talk about. Childish Gambino has released, or more accurately, re-released the completed version of the album he put out 4 years ago, I believe now. At the time, it was called 3/15/20, just the date it came out. Pretty raw, unfinished project, and I think that was at that point his first project in 2 years.
Right.
So if we're counting time here, really 6 years since we've had a good, solid, completed Childish Gambino album. Um, I've always loved Gambino's music. He's one of the people that really got me into hip hop and into album listening as an experience.
Mhm.
Uh, what's your background with Childish Gambino? I mean, are you just like popular hits? Do you enjoy him as an artist? Let me know what you think.
So with Gambino, um, I always knew him more as an actor first. And then throughout high school, you get his big hits. Um, and then I don't know, I didn't really care for Gambino all that much. It wasn't really my type of music, especially when he started getting real experimental.
Yeah,
But I don't know. There's definitely a lot of songs that I do like from him. And then I gave what's that one called? The one that's right behind you. Yep,
because the internet.
that one. You sent me that one when I did my little excursion, and I ended up enjoying it more. Still wasn't like huge on it. I did have a
Yeah.
lot of respect for what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like hate it or nothing, but yeah, that's really it. And then I mean he did um This Is America, and that was nuts.
Yeah.
But then
He's been
yeah,
off the grid for many
yeah,
moons.
right.
I
And then
think a direct
I've just seen him in movies.
Yeah, I think a direct quote that he said when he started promoting this latest re-release was, "I never went away from the music. I just finished all my side quests," which is a pretty crazy bar. But anyways, let's get into this thing. I've seen a lot of people on the internet talking about the album, and it's getting a lot of attention and praise at this point in its release. And a lot of hardcore fans have been like, if you weren't here for 315, get out of here. You're not a real fan or whatever, which
Yeah.
I think is kind of ridiculous because if you're going to put out a half finished project and get like I'm, and get a half praise reaction from me, that's just what is going to happen. And then if you
Yeah.
finish it, then I'm like, going to
Right.
be more inclined to really give it a worthwhile listen. And that's essentially what's happened here
Yeah.
with this project. There's some new stuff on it, but really I think the primary draw is the mixing and mastering is completed, which I think works to its benefit a lot in ways that we'll kind of get into as we go through our album grades here. But let's get into that first with production. Obviously, a guy that's had heavy influence from artists like Kanye West on his production style early in his career,
Mhm.
and then has leaned more experimental kind of as he's gone on. And to me, I feel like this is a culmination of those styles at this point. He's taken some of that highly experimental stuff and some of that more traditional trap hip hop stuff that Kanye and other artists have made very popular and very famous, and blended them to this kind of mashed up pop, rap, funk, all these kinds of styles.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it really works in a lot of cases. I think the production is one of the stronger aspects of the album for sure. There are moments occasionally where I'm like not in love with the production that he's chosen for certain points or whatever, or
Mhm.
where I think things maybe could have been slightly different or toned down or brought up a level to kind of match the rest of the song better.
Yeah.
But also, honestly, I think overall it's a very solid experimental blend. What do you think on the production here?
Dude, I was actually blown away from the production from the start to end. Um, I if I would have listened back to some of his previous work, then I probably would have remembered or have felt like, okay, like he's just kind of continuing, you can see the growth kind of thing. But because I haven't heard his music like in a very long time, it
Yeah,
was completely new. Um, and I don't know, I just felt immersed in the like this whole album. Like I put my
yeah,
headphones on just so that I could actually focus, and I just laid in my bed listening to this album, and just it was incredible. So I loved the
yeah.
production. I do agree. For me, I think it's definitely the strongest aspect of the album.
Hmm.
Um it's funny being like where I am right now with Gambino, because with this album coming out, however, you said what, 4 years ago?
Yeah,
Um, when it first came out, dude, I thought this was the worst album ever and I hated it. And I was like,
yeah,
dude, this is stupid. Then again, I wasn't into like any kind of experimental, but
yeah.
being where I am right now, like being able to appreciate this kind of music these days, the production was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure. And this is kind of where that comment that I was leading in with comes into play.
Mhm.
Is I'll agree with you. I think when I first listened to this album, I didn't really give it like a whole hearty dissection like I did in this point, getting ready for this review.
Yeah.
But when your mixing and mastering is not finished, the production is really the primary thing that's going to suffer. The vocals are going to
Yeah.
suffer a bit as well, but especially when you're coming in with blends of experimentation and funk and industrial rap and hip hop and pop and all these other subgenres being blended together, a lot of that's going to get lost in translation when you're not mastering it properly.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a huge reason that it's a much more enjoyable listen this time around for me. I ended up giving the production a 9 because I
Yeah.
think it's super solid. It's right up there with some of the best that I've heard this year.
Yeah. I gave it a 9 too. I was blown away.
Well, I mean, that's one of the first categories in a few reviews I think that we've agreed on.
Yeah.
Going back to the Metro stuff,
Yeah.
we didn't see eye to eye on much of it, but
Yeah.
um,
Especially being super high.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Let's dive into the vocals here because this was another aspect of his music that I felt like he had been experimenting with kind of over his career. Really, where I think most people primarily know him from is his just standard hip hop rap voice and flows, which is solid. Like, I don't think he has a bad voice for a rapper, but it's nothing really all that standoutish, impressive. His flows
Yeah.
aren't really all the time all that original. And then on a project like Awaken My Love, you get him experimenting with a lot more different vocal styles. And on this one, I feel like this again made a big impression on me as his or in his growth as an artist in terms of his vocal abilities, because you aren't just confined to these experimental styles. You're still getting some of the stuff that most people know him for, the rap sounds, the pop sounds, and that kind of stuff. But you're also getting a large range of these vocal styles from like pop to funk and trap, even things like metal or industrial rap. You kind of catch influence on a couple of places there. Um, I think most of the experimentation on here works in his favor. I think it works together in like a cool and original way. Not all of it is all the time perfect to me. It's not quite up there. It's in the same level of production. But I also wanted to note that I think a cool part about this album is how he utilizes auto-tune
Mhm.
to enhance and make stuff original and not correct the fact that he's a crappy singer. So like there's a lot of
Yeah.
times where he isn't using auto tune at all and he's singing and it sounds solid, it sounds good. And then there's other times where he's using auto tune to provide an original sound to the song. And I think I appreciated that a lot going through the listen because so many artists will do one or the other. Like you'll get a Travis Scott that just has no vocal charisma, and so
Yeah.
has to auto tune everything. Or you get someone who's kind of a crappy singer that uses it to fix all their vocals and sound like a good singer.
Yeah.
But I think he doesn't really rely on those standards as far as his vocal mixing here.
Yeah. Um, I've always loved Glover's voice. Um, I think that's all I feel me personally, I feel like that's always been a strong suit of his. Um, even in songs of, like rap, like I still think he has a very solid voice. Um, it was cool to see him implement different genres throughout this album vocally.
Mm-hmm.
Like going from something like algorithm or time and then going to like Littlefoot Bigfoot, like
Yeah,
just being able to do all of that within the same album, I
yeah,
think is one, really cool, two, really impressive, and three, not done as often. Um, so it just adds on to my enjoyment of that just because I don't get to hear that from many artists. Plus, like I said, I think it's one of his stronger suits.
yeah, for sure. What did you end up giving this
Oh yeah.
section?
I gave vocals an 8.
Oh wow, same
Yeah.
again.
Oh,
Wow,
let's go.
impressive. We're on the same wavelength with this one. Very cool. Um, yeah, I think it's a solid vocal performance for him, and I really enjoyed the experimentation. Like I said, and kind of talking about vocal work. Let's get into the lyrics here. Honestly, I feel like even throughout his career, for a lyrical rapper who at times proves that he's capable of very impressive lyrical stuff, he often fails to kind of live up to his own measuring stick by
Yeah.
that standard. He oftentimes in his music will show me that he has the ability and the wit to be a great lyricist and come up with great lyrics and tell great stories. And there's a few moments on here where he kind of does that, but I think he often kind of falls short on his own measuring stick. And maybe that's a result of focusing more in on experimental stuff and vocal stuff and production stuff. And so I'm not really all that unhappy with it. I just think for a guy who proves that he can be a great lyricist, he doesn't always utilize that to make the songs their best.
Yeah.
And I ended up giving him a 6 in this category for that.
Well, I gave him a 6 as well, so
What
that's
the?
3 for 3. Yeah, I agree. Just him as a person himself, you can tell that he is capable of kind of off the top, very witty
Mhm.
kind of lyrics. So not hearing that, like, I mean, I don't really care because I don't really see him as a lyrical artist very much
Yeah.
anyways.
Mhm.
Plus when I'm doing this category, I do like to try to listen twice, so that I can actually take one time to like read the lyrics. But I was late on my homework, so I didn't. So it being a 6, like I don't know if it would stay down up. Like I don't know if I would have listened a second time, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's also not an album that I'm really like truly listening to the albums all that much. Like there's a couple songs like here and there where
Yeah.
it's like sure, but being as experimental at it as it is, I'm more vibing with the production anyways. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that for sure. Um, that kind of wraps up, I think, the lyrics for us. But let's talk about the theme and the concept here. I feel like the last few times we've done albums, we keep going further away from it having any theme or concept. You get some theme, I guess, in kind of just the experimental nature of the album. There's a lot of songs that are just feel like tracks that are supposed to be vibes or to enjoy for summertime. I think both times he's put that out kind of in that mindset, at least
Mhm.
when as far as the time of the year that it's been released. Unfortunately, if you release an album in March of 2020, it's not going to be remembered for that because of the whole coronavirus thing. But uh, I think it is pretty themeless. It also, I think, will serve as a little bit of a holdover for the real album
Yeah.
that he's putting out later this summer, which he's described as a soundtrack for the fans. Um, but yeah, I do think it could have benefited from a little more cohesion, maybe
Mhm.
in kind of how the songs are themed together, because you do get songs um, like Algorithm, which is this kind of commentary on the modernization of people and how people aren't really, thinking for themselves as much, maybe, or however you want to look at that.
Yeah.
And then you get into songs like Time and Psilocybe, where it's like these acid trips or like talking about being high all the time. And I guess maybe
Yeah.
that kind of goes together, but it's like you get into these relationship kind of tracks and then you are coming from stuff like that. There's just not really a great flow to it in that context. I don't think sonically it doesn't flow together. I think it does flow pretty smoothly in how it sounds, but just
Yeah.
theme wise doesn't really flow too much. I think it just could have benefited from a little more theme and cohesion in it, but I ended up with a 6 on that category.
Mhm. So this is where we'll get our first one that is different from each other because I
Finally.
did give it a 5, so still close, but I just this is a tough one for me personally, just because I never know what they're actually talking about. It doesn't matter if it is a concept album from start to finish. I The only album I've ever gone through knowing the concept was The Incredible True Story.
Hmm.
But that's because they also had like commentary after every single song. So
Yeah.
it was very easy to follow along.
Yeah.
Um, so it's very hard for me. So this one will probably forever get a lower rating unless I can like figure it out at least.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't see any correlation really from any songs.
Yeah.
So I don't really have much to say about this one.
Yeah, I do think the absence of any kind of cohesion or theme hurts it a little bit, but
Yeah.
also I don't necessarily need everything I listen to be telling me a story all the time.
Right.
So I'm not entirely bothered by it, but I do think as an album listening experience, especially from a guy who's done things like Because the Internet or
Hmm.
Awaken My Love, where there is very strong cohesion throughout it, he obviously could have done that a little better on this one, I think.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the features here, because it's quite a diverse and random palette of features. We've got Summer Walker, Ariana Grande, Young Nudie, 21 Savage, among others. Let me hear what you think about the features on this one.
Dude, I loved the features. Like I didn't have a problem with the features. Um Starting off with Ariana, dude, that's such a beautiful song. I think their vocals together in that song mesh so very well together. Like
Mm-hmm.
whoever was in charge of mixing vocals and the production on that one deserves
Yeah,
a bonus of some sort. I was blown away. Yeah, it was beautiful. I felt it in my soul. It was great. And then like 21 comes in, and if you're like at least on Apple, if you're looking at the album track list and you go through with 21, it's the title and then in parentheses Millennial Love, then feature and then dot dot dot. And I didn't care to look at it. So I had no idea 21 was about to start
yeah,
rapping. So he started coming in and I was like, what is going on?
yeah.
but then it was kind of working and I was kind of vibing with it. So I was like in this like
Yeah.
weird state of, is this supposed to happen? Should I be feeling the way that I'm feeling right now? Or
Yeah.
I'm confused. So, those were really the two main ones that I wanted to just kind of note on. But I thought
Hmm.
overall the features were really good. I think he chose some great artists to work with. I ended up giving them an 8.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think when you're making a feature list, it's very easy to do something very safe and very expected. And that was like a big knock that I gave on Beyonce's album when we talked about that one, is it felt like a lot of the features were very safe picks if you're going to make an R&B style country album. But I think this one is not like that at all. It's very bold and it's very willing to put artists in a space where if you mess it up, it could sound like trash. Like
Yeah.
if you put 21 Savage on a funk style, pop cut, it could sound like garbage.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It sounds cool. It sounds like a vibe. It's not at all like hearing 21 Savage on that abysmal Calvin Harris song that he did 2 years ago. And again, even with Ariana Grande, you could very easily put one of the best female vocalists on a track and be like, I don't want to sound like doo doo next to her, so I'm just going to do my rap thing. But
Yeah.
no, he's going to come on and sing his heart out and sound really good for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, and so I do respect that a lot. I think they all work in a lot of really good ways. Some didn't do fantastic. Like I could kind of take or leave Young Nudy's feature. I think he
Mhm.
sounds solid, but like if it wasn't on there, I don't think I'd miss it all that much.
Yeah.
I think Summer Walker sounds good as well. I don't think any of them really sound all that egregious. So I ended up with a 7 out of 10. So
Yeah.
pretty close to you there.
Valid.
And let's get into the last category here with the replay value. Kind of hinted at this throughout, but let me know how you're feeling about this one going forward.
Dude, it's a great album. I was thoroughly impressed by it. Very happy with um just the experience of it. I gave it an 8. The only thing that like, and it's not a lot of them, or at least I don't feel this way with a lot of them. But some of these songs are very long. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't like when we talk about, best worst underrated,
Yeah.
you'll like one of my answers, really only in worst because of how long it is. I really don't have a problem with any of
Yeah.
these songs. But I love the vibe. A lot of these songs feel like I'm in some sort of space movie, kind of like Interstellar, where it's just like this,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, what's kind of going on? But I'm
Yeah.
vibing. It's I don't know. I think there's a lot of replay value to this album, and I'm really glad that he fixed all of it because
Yeah.
I went from a hater to a lover. So, um, yeah, phenomenal album. Overall it came out to a 7.5.
Super cool. I agree with pretty much everything you just said. I think it's enjoyable, it's fresh, it's experimental, but not in a way that's like scaring the hose where it's like, are you
Yeah,
really going to be listening to it all that much?
right.
Maybe not. Like, I'll give it one or two listens. And if I'm like in the mood for something crazy, then I'll listen to it. But like, no, it's experimental. It's fun. It's finally well completed to the point where you're going through and saying, these are great songs instead of just being like, these are kind of some solid ideas, but it sounds like, a SoundCloud 16-year-old just finished it. Um, I do think there's a lot of playable tracks. There are a couple that it's like songs I would listen to, but maybe not anytime they come up. Like
Hmm.
if algorithm comes on the shuffle, I'm not always just going to be like, let me hear 21 or not 21, Gambino do this industrial rap metal voice for 2 minutes before we get into like this funk pop song. but like there's for sure times where I'll just be in the mood to like hear something fun and crazy and listen to that.
Yeah.
So I ended up giving it a 7 out of 10 overall. Just came shy of a 7.5 out of 10 for me, and that seems pretty reflective of how I do feel about it.
Yeah.
But let's get into the best track on here next. What do you think the best listen is?
So best in my opinion, just because of how fun it is gonna be Littlefoot Bigfoot.
Mm,
Um, but the only other one that I would put up against it would be Time.
mm,
Two very different types of songs, but I think um just with how much fun I have with Littlefoot Bigfoot just listening wise,
yeah,
um and then comparing it to like Ariana's vocals and the just how put together this song is, I feel like are real neck and neck, so I could go with either or. But I really
yeah.
like those ones.
I'm between a couple here. I think for me, the best track at this point is between Atavista, the title track, or To Be Hunted. I think both of those are fantastic and are probably the songs that I will be listening to the most. Among others, obviously, I do think Time is a super solid cut as well.
Yeah.
Um, at this point, I probably lean a little more towards To Be Hunted. I think that's one that I've been listening to
Mhm.
quite a bit. But let's hear what your worst track on this one is because
So
I'm curious now.
it's just because it's long, because why is any song over 7 minutes long? It's Sweet Thing. And
Okay.
like I said, I don't have a like, oh, I really don't like this song, or I could do with that. Like I don't care. Like I think all of it has one aspect or another to where I'll enjoy
Yeah.
it. But this one, it just let's let's just break it up into two songs. You
Right.
know, what's the problem
Yeah.
with that? So
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, I don't know. Like for mine, I'd probably go the opposite end of that and say like I guess the track I'm going to listen to the least is maybe Why Go to the Party, but that's like a
Mhm.
40-second interlude, so I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm really going to count that.
yeah.
Um I don't know why. I think maybe the next one for me is Littlefoot
Oh
Bigfoot,
wow.
and it's not because I think it's oh I just hit my mic. I'm not going to say I think it's garbage. I think it's a little too catchy and sing-songy to the point where it might get annoying to me if I over
Mhm.
listen to it. So that's really what it
That's
comes
fair.
down to. I don't think it's garbage. I just think like if I get to the point where it's like like that might get old to me quicker than
Oh,
the rest of this.
that
But
that tune makes me so happy right now.
it is a fun one. I think like it is a fun track. But yeah. Anyways, let's get into most underrated. What song do you feel like people are overlooking?
Dude, I until I looked back at the track list, I was gonna say that one word that I don't know how to pronounce, but you pronounced it pretty well. Um,
Atavista or psilocybe?
that's the one. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
psilocybe.
Why is it even spelled like that? That's thick.
Yeah, that's a funky
Um,
one.
I saw that and thought I was dyslexic and or having a stroke. Um, but then obviously like there's the little star, I guess, dot right by it. So that means,
Yeah,
it's getting listened to quite a bit. So I'm gonna go
yeah.
with Algorithm.
Okay.
Um, I I was confused with Atavista, like as the intro
Yeah,
and everything. I didn't like more so I was confused on why it was so short. And then I immediately forgot about it once Algorithm came on. And
yeah,
I it sucks because it's right at the beginning of the album.
yeah.
But dude, I was in a whole different universe when I was listening to this one. I when I put my headphones on, just this surround sound and like I closed my eyes and just oh, it was an experience. I loved
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
But yeah, so I'm gonna go with Algorithm.
W pick. I'll agree with that one. I think the most underrated to me right now is probably Human Sacrifice, and this
Mm.
one wasn't even on my radar in like the first couple listens I gave to it.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I was like, I'm gonna just skim through some of this just to get a little refresher while I'm doing the dishes, whatever. And it came on, and I was like, holy crap, this song is super good. I think it's just really catchy and interesting. I think it blends a lot of those styles that we talked about earlier that makes it unique, and yeah, that's the one that I think is underrated
Yeah,
at
I
this
like it.
point. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that wraps up all of Atavista. I'm now super super excited for what he puts out later this summer because I was thinking his best stuff was behind him at
Yeah.
this point, to be honest. So
Yeah. I'm glad that he finished all his side quests and
yeah,
can really focus on music because
right.
he's proven that he can do it and he can
Yeah,
do it
yeah, I
well.
agree. I agree 100%. Did I ever send you the track he previewed on his radio show with that he did with Kanye?
I think I saw it myself, but I don't remember.
I'll have to send it to you
Yeah,
because
send it
I
to me.
heard that and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this might be if every song's like this might be the best album of the year." So, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, obviously no official release date yet or
Right.
anything, but we'll stay tuned on that. And yeah, I mean that's all for me. If you unless you have anything else to wrap this episode up.
Dude, I can see the future. J. Cole versus Childish Gambino for album of the year. No beef, no beef. Don't worry, no beef. Just
and it's
fighting
and
for
it's
that
their
#1
second
spot.
albums of the year. It's not even for Might Delete
Yeah,
Later
no,
and
literally.
Atavista. It's their next two albums. So there we go.
Right.
Well, we'll see how the rest of the year plays out, and until then,
Until then,
vámonos.
that's not right.